Hi there, Rachel Bagels here. Today I'm going to be making my version of a mushroom and miso ramen. Now this recipe is absolutely delicious and it comes together with random ingredients that I just kind of keep in my fridge, plus whatever I have on hand at the time. So I'm gonna start prepping my broth so that way I can have it off to the side, simmering and just developing even more delicious flavor. So I've got my pot on the heat here. I've added a couple teaspoons of oil. I'm going to add my shallot. Now I just minced one nicely sized shallot for this. Get it nice small pieces. Now I'm just gonna stir my shallot and let it cook down for a couple minutes until it becomes nice and fragrant. Love the smell of sauté. Love the smell of sautéing shallots. It always just hits the nostrils so good. Just give it a little stir here and there. All right. And then I'm going to add a tablespoon and a half of garlic, finely minced. I'm going to stir that in there. The smell gets even better. Just gonna let this cook for another minute. Enjoy that whip. All right, so the next thing I'm going to add is a tablespoon of mushroom bouillon. It's just to really get a nice mushroomy flavor. If you want to go light on the mushrooms, you can omit this step. And I'm also going to add a tablespoon of white miso paste. And I'm going to mix all this together. Really break down those pastes and get everything as combined as possible. Smells super yummy. All right. And at this stage, I'm also going to add a couple teaspoons of sesame seeds. We want to get them nice and toasty. And I'm going to add my ginger juice. This stuff smells so good. So I added a couple teaspoons of my ginger juice and my sesame seeds, and I'm just going to stir this up. All right, now at this stage, I'm going to turn it to a medium heat. I'm going to add a teaspoon of mirin. I'm going to add a teaspoon of sesame oil. And I'm going to add some dark soy sauce, about 2 teaspoons. Now I just happen to have dark soy sauce on hand, but if you don't have it, you can go ahead and add your normal soy sauce. The dark soy sauce is lovely because it has an even deeper, richer flavor. This looks so good. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the liquid that I strained out of my dehydrated mushrooms. I rehydrated them earlier and I strained out all this beautiful liquid that they were sitting in, so that should be lovely. I'm using a no chicken broth here. I prefer to use this no chicken broth to a vegetable broth. Vegetable broths just have the inherent sweetness to it, thanks to the carrots that are in there. This one is a really nice flavor, similar to chicken broth. So the last thing I'm going to add is 1 bay leaf. Alrighty. I'm going to give my broth a final stir, just to make sure everything comes together and there's no settling at the bottom. This looks delicious. You can drink this up just as is. Now that my broth has come together, I'm just going to put it onto my back burner and just let it simmer for a while until I'm ready to serve. The longer it simmers, the deeper the flavor. So, you know, gonna leave it there for a little bit. So I've got my shiitakes here. They were dehydrated and I just rehydrated them. Put them in water for about 30 minutes, let them soak, and then strain them. And I've got these lovely little guys here. And I'm just gonna give them a little caramelization to then put in the ramen. So I've got my pan on a high heat here, and I'm gonna go ahead and add some oil. About a couple teaspoons of oil. Once the oil is nice and hot, I'm gonna go ahead and add my mushrooms. So I wanna give them a good mix. Allow them to brown just a little bit, and then I'm gonna take them off the heat. That looks good to me. I'll turn that heat off and put these aside for later. Perfect. They smell so good. I love mushrooms. Alright, so for this recipe today, I'm going to be using tofu, and I'm going to be using it two ways. I've got some diced tofu here that I'm just going to be putting directly into my ramen. It'll stay nice and soft and it'll be a lovely bite. And then I've got some triangles here of tofu that I'm going to saute up and get them nice and crispy, which will add a lovely texture and a nice bite. Now all of my tofu has been prepped for this. I have cut it and I have dried it. You put your tofu between two towels and you let it sit and dry out. For my diced bits of tofu, I just let them sit for a few minutes. I let my triangles sit for about 20 to 30 minutes so I can dry them out more, so I can get more of a crispy texture. So I've got my pan here on the stove on a high heat. I'm gonna add a tablespoon and a half of oil here. And once my oil's nice and hot, I can add my tofu. You wanna hear that beautiful sizzle. Careful, it's a splatter zone. All right, I can see some lovely brown edges on my tofu here, so I'm going to start to flip them. And I'm going to let them cook on the other side until I also get this beautiful brown color. And we are good. So I'm going to quickly take that off the heat. So I've transferred my tofu here to a towel, so that way they can get any excess oil off of them, any excess moisture, so they can be as crispy as possible. So exciting! Today I'm using some brown rice ramen noodles. These are lovely, it's a really nice flavor, and that's what I have on hand, so yay! I'm gonna go ahead and cook them off to the side and get them ready to add to my final ramen. So I'm coming back to my broth now, very close to serving, so what I'm going to do now is add my tofu. And I'm going to add about 2/3 of my mushrooms. So I've got about half a cup of edamame here, and I'm going to add it to my broth. Now I'm just going to let the broth sit on the stove for a little bit longer, let all those flavors get absorbed. The tofu will get all that rich, delicious broth in there. The mushrooms will soften even more and get that flavor in there, and it'll all keep coming together. Alrighty, so everything is ready to go. Now I'm just going to put it in my bowl and assemble my ramen. So I'm going to take some broth here. Make sure I get a lot of that goodness that's in there. I'm gonna add some of my noodles. Creating a base layer here so that as we go up, we can see all that goodness at the very top. Some more broth. Add the rest of my noodles in here. My mushrooms. Just kind of scatter them all into one little side to look all nice. I've got my crispy tofu, and I'll just have floating in there. I've got my beautifully soft-boiled egg here. I'll just have that go right in the middle, like so. And then I've got some green onions for garnish. And then I'll dust it with some sesame seeds. Perfect. And that is my yummy miso mushroom ramen recipe. Can't wait to dig in.